Hey everybody, happy Monday. It is the Monday show here on GMG, the monthly free episode. So for those of you who join us live on YouTube, we do this once a week, every Monday, hanging out with the patrons. And basically, just like chilling out, seeing what everybody's doing, seeing how the week was, seeing what's coming up and what's happened in the industry, usually over the weekend. So I hope you've all had a great week and that you are ready to, hang out, talk some workshop stuff, talk some industry stuff. It's been kind of a big week this week, as far as like what's been happening and like the, the sort of like eventfulness of being in the miniature wargaming industry. Quite a few things going on. It's also the federal election here in Canada, which is why I'm a week late. I went and voted. If you're Canadian, go out and vote. It's important. Yeah, it's that time of year. And it's never been more important, I think, to vote your conscience and let yourself be heard and, basically participate in parliamentary democracy. So, this past weekend, caught up on a bunch of editing stuff I'd been doing. You guys got to watch a couple of GMG reviews on some interesting new boxes from Workshop. We'll talk a little bit more about those. Battle Forces are back, which I think is an interesting marker and keystone on what the industry looks like. Having been kind of like just not out of Warhammer 40,000, but just like detached from it for the last little while. So many other smaller game systems that have, they're so much easier to engage with, and I can kind of eat a plate of appetizers all the time as opposed to like trying to eat a huge bowl of pasta with 40K. I hadn't really been paying attention to like the product line that much because, it's Games Workshop. It's a 40-year-old product line. Like a box of Space Marines is a box of Space Marines. Primaris, not Primaris. So it was kind of illuminating seeing this return of an older product mix and style from Workshop happening. I did some reviews and we can talk about that in a bit. But let's say out of the chat, see who's here. And what's been going on. So we got Kieran Taylor here, Ryan Dunphy's here, Andrew Clocks here, Andrew Jackson's here, Bad Internet Friends Podcast is here, popping in to say hello, catching the rerun. All right, thanks, man. Grizz Grifferson is here, Ghost Mutton's here, Atragon X is here, Taciturn Merce is here, Dan Fox here, and Stian Callens here. Hope you guys are having a great week so far. Let's start off with the GW thing. Obviously it's been a hot minute since I checked out the sort of like current product line, from Workshop. Oh, and 11 Lamash is here too. Fantastic. Battle Forces are back. And what's really funny is, man, like Battle Forces to me, they look like this. 2000s Battle Force. Let's just see if I can pull up what a GW Battle Force would look like to me from back in the day. It would look something like that. Here's a good example of one right here. This little guy. He's on eBay right now. Oh my God. I wonder what the box. I think I actually literally talk about this Battle Force in, I do. In the Codex review. It's this Battle Force right here. So this is the one that I think is kind of like this series of Battle Force, or what I think of Battle Forces, this like 2000s series of Battle Force. And they come with quite a few miniatures. So this one right here, the Space Wolf one, which you can see there's one on eBay. It contained, you can see the side shot here. So it contained a Rhino, 3 bikes, a unit of Grey Hunters, and a unit of Blood Claws. So 24 miniatures, and I think they were $85 back when I first started working with Workshop. Like, this is in 2000. So today's Battle Force, and this is the new, and we're talking about, we'll go to boardgames.ca and check one of these things out. I think they're $290. Yeah, so like there's the Agents of the Order Battle Battle Force. There's this Sororitas one that just came out, and we just saw the 2 Chaos Space Marine ones. So the Death Guard Battle Force. This new guy right here. Yeah, that's this guy right here. They were $290 Canadian, and I was like, damn, what a change. I'm excited to see these things come back. If I'm honest, like they're an interesting like take on the Battle Force. Like I think I clicked on the wrong button there at the end, but that's okay. The battle force for the Death Guard was like a plague crawler, the float bloat drone, one of the bombards, and then a unit of plague marines, unit of terminators, and a single character. So set like 16 models, you know what I mean? So like 8 less miniatures, but it had tanks and stuff in it too. And for 3 times the price, man, it's crazy. Just like what a crazy thing. And so this, again, it kind of dovetailed into the weekend's video for Inside Tabletop, which I recorded a couple weeks ago with Chris from Loads of Our Games and Hobbies, where we started talking about prices and how the market corrects against prices and some of the things that have happened in the past, back in the 2000s. And like that 2000s era of like border jumping for trying to get a better price, like deal hunting and bootlegging, such a different example of what's been going on. And what might happen again, because like it happened back in the day. So yeah, it's been going over to the weekend. We kind of had some talks about that. But let's jump into some news. I'm going to quickly say out of the chat again and see who else is here. Andrew Clock's here. Andrew Jackson's here. We got Sean Fine's here. Alev is here. And so is Lamashta. Loser's here. Matt Alisana's here. Tobias Newman's here. Kudos Budos is here. Francois Groff's here. Tom Kush is here. Mark Langeel's here. And Jonathan Wyborn's here. Well, hey everybody, hope you're having a great day. Oh, Mike Grimshaw's here too. So yeah, let's have a little gander at some other stuff that's been happening. So last week, about 4 days, well, I should say last week, 4 days ago, we got this, which is kind of a big. We talked about this a little bit on we luckily late did, because I was short story long, I was cutting up trees for most of long weekend for Easter. So we did a late Monday show on a Thursday last week, literally as this went up. This was a note by Cool Mini or Not, who produced Dark Age, it's miniature game wise, if you didn't know from that in the past, but they also make the Song of Ice and Fire miniature game and have about 10 Kickstarters currently delivering. Yeah, they posted this sort of like unsigned letter saying, our Cool Mini or Not community means a lot to us. We felt it was important to share with you some difficult decisions at our company today. Given global conditions and most notably the situation with tariffs, Cool Mini or Not has decided to focus on our current commitments to our customers and partners and prioritize the timely delivery of existing projects. So effective immediately, we'll be pausing all future game development and new crowdfunding campaigns until trade conditions have stabilized. Unfortunately, this involves some extremely difficult staffing decisions affecting all of our creative teams with reductions. We did not make this choice lightly, and our thoughts are with everybody impacted. We're incredibly grateful for the roles of their successes along the years and these talented people we missed both professionally and personally. The industry continues to rapidly evolve, and unpredictable situations like recent tariffs or COVID just a few years ago presented challenges for everyone in board games. With that said, it's our responsibility to take these difficult measures to ensure that we can keep current projects on track and deliver them in a timely manner. We'll, of course, resume new development as soon as possible. And please rest assured this decision will help ensure that we can keep commitments to our backers, partners, and community. And then Catalyst Game Labs also on a couple days before, I think it was on Tuesday, Lauren Coleman, who's the chief, he's the CEO and chief like creative of, actually, sorry, I think Randall's chief creative, but Lauren Coleman, basically owner of Catalyst, posted this long, incredibly detailed breakdown of what they're currently going through as far as cost of goods. And I think if you're looking to educate yourselves on what's going, like what the chaos in the market is right now, this article by Lauren's may be one of the best breakdowns for the layman as to how like just misinformed I think people are about who's going to bear the cost of all of what's going on right now. And it's pretty explicit. They basically open the books up on what, for example, a $40 box of Battle Mechs cost of goods wise might cost, and then what the usual markups are as far as setting MSRP, how that works with distribution like models and stuff like that. And then just comes clean about the fact that some of his products in the last like 5 years, especially when C-cans changed costs from about $5,000 to about almost $30,000. He ended up basically paying for people to have miniatures. Like they made negative dollars off of some of the kits that they were delivering and stuff like that. This is a great read. And I'll put this stuff in the description once the live stream ends for you guys to check out. But go, if you want to go check this out, it's called Tariffs, Rolling Dice Against the American Game Publisher by Lauren. Both of these things happening right now in the market are pretty substantial from like the point of view of these are fairly big industry players. But if you go to Polygon, or Board Game Wire, they'll have a breakdown of some smaller ones too that have like really been impacted, and you can go to like some of these like major news sites, and they'll have a roundup of all the other companies basically that are having to like make pretty drastic changes in the last couple weeks, and they're all being pretty public about it. They are not messing around with the facts of what's happening internally right now. And the companies that are being quiet are probably the companies that really don't know what to do next. One of the really interesting points in the Catalyst update is we'll figure it out is basically the plan. Like we don't know enough about what's going to be happening day to day with what things cost to have like things, you know what I mean, blow up basically in the short term. So yeah, it's going to be quite an interesting bunch of weeks. And I think the companies that are being the loudest about it, luckily, are fairly large. I think Catalyst doing this like breakdown, Lauren basically writing out like, hey guys, like this is what this means to me as a retailer. Like just in like black and white dollar amounts, there's no political affiliation or like, there's no call to action in any of this. It's just, here's what's going on. It's total mayhem. And we'll figure it out, but we have no idea what like is going to be happening in the short term. So yeah, it's been a crazy week, and I would recommend that all of you guys go and read those two articles in particular, the Cool Mini or Not one, the Polygon one on that crowdfunding one, because what we're seeing here is two really interesting like bits of fallout from all this kind of like economic uncertainty. The first one is a company that predominantly uses crowdfunding to deliver and then doesn't necessarily have as big a retail presence. Like Cool Mini or Not, it's produced in Shanghai. They have their own factory, but then like they have to try and get it to warehouse in the US through like a distribution model, and it's totally screwing them over. Then you have an American company having pieces manufactured for their product in China, having that stuff come over. They were already being impacted by global shipping, cutting their cost of goods. And now it's like, you literally have to either change prices by 150% or I'm paying for you guys to own these products. And it just gets crazy, like absolutely crazy, super fast. And they're being pretty public about it. So yeah, the fallout's already happening. Like it's only been like a month and a half of this, and they're starting to being like, well, I guess we're just fucked then. Here's where this happens. Yeah, and like it's gonna be pretty wild. So that was last week. We did have some cool news today though, and it's funny because some of the chat actually already mentioned this. We got some models getting redone in the very near future, including this big mamma jamma, who's a brand new sculpt for Logan Grimnar. I'm pretty excited about this. I have a beautiful Space Wolf army that I love very much. And yeah, and this sculpt is pretty great. I mean, here's the thing. We went from a Jez Goodwin's, like, let's just be real for a second. We went from a beautiful Jez Goodwin sculpt in the 1990s. So like the Jez Goodwin Logan Grimnar, who looked like this, who was a freaking fantastic miniature. Which is this classic right here, this old chestnut, and then yeah, and I love this miniature. I'm gonna be honest, like this miniature is great. I'm not sure where I can find a painted one. Oh, here we go, a fine cast version of him. I can show you guys this one. I'm gonna open that in a new tab because I realized I gotta center this on screen. Yeah, this old classic right here, beautiful miniature, who is the metal second, third edition Logan Grimnar, which I absolutely love. I love this model. Pretty sure he's sculpted by Jet. Yeah, he's a Jez Goodwin sculpt. And then we got this guy, and I mean, he's fine. He's okay, I guess. We got the Santa one, who's riding around in a boat, and he's not terrible. I would call him an inferior version of what's currently available, or was available beforehand. Which is this guy, right? I'm gonna find like a Citadel picture of him. I don't want to put up somebody else's plastic. Maybe if I look at that, I don't want to put up somebody else's paint job because I just feel like that's stealing. This one's better here. Let's show him on there's a game site that's got a picture of him from their like box set art. I'll just show that. This guy, who's not terrible, like he's on a boat, and the actual Logan Grimnar miniature, you can put him on foot. He's not great. I've painted this guy too. His face isn't as cool. His hair's doing all kinds of wacky shit. This one's just a nicer miniature. Like, that's a great miniature. I like the dourness. I like the like sort of Odin-y look to his haircut and his face. He looks old. He looks tired, and he looks like he's just about done with whatever the hell the Imperium's been doing. And he's got his two wolves. I love the fact that he's got his two wolves from the sled basically now on foot. So I guess the sled version might still get used, but then this foot version's like a new profile with him actually on foot. And has he been Primarist? Turnic and Fenrir? I don't know. He looks huge. He was always a giant dude. So I'm hoping that like this is just him having like some, I don't know, maybe he's Primarisified. I feel like the Space Wolves wouldn't be having that though. I mean, I know they did. They're kind of forced to. And then we got a new Arjak Rockfist, because these guys were all in Finecast. And the old Arjak was fine. He was okay. But he's got two poses now. He's like throwing his hammer or not throwing his hammer, which I kind of like. A new Njal, who is in Power Armor, not in Terminator Armor, which is a return to form for him, because he was in 5th edition. He got his Terminator Armor sculpt. And he's got his Color of the Dead, or Seeker of the Dead, too, in the back is like Cyber Raven. And it's funny how y'all never done, like, it doesn't age. I don't know why he doesn't age. Why is he the only one that doesn't have white hair? And I think we already have a new Ultra Slayer. And then we get new Terminators, who look like they're Primaris big. So these will match the Terminator sizes for the Primaris Terminators from, like, the generic Space Marine release. The ones that we got at the launch of 10th edition. And they're nice. Just cool Space Wolf Terminators. I'm curious as to how, like, because the one thing with Space Wolf players, and I have 25 Space Wolf Terminators painted, I'm curious how this will mesh with that. Because, like, you were allowed some of the most insane weapon options back then. And these guys all look like they have, like, this guy's got a Frost Axe, I think it's supposed to be, the double-handed one. And then it's Power Weapon Stormbolter for the rest of them. And then this guy's got a Power Fist and an Assault Cannon. So who knows what the weapon options will be. But the heads are really great. I mean, it's Workshop, man. Like, their sculpting is pretty fantastic. We see an example of this guy here who looks like he's the pack leader. So you can make him out of the Wolfguard box, just like you could before. And he's got lightning claws. Or, sorry, wolf claws. And then there's a storm shield here, too. So I imagine you can make Thunder Hammer and storm shield. So, yeah, I mean, they're Space Wolf miniatures, and they're in the current sculpting quality. So what really more is there to say about that? I think they look fantastic. It's hard not to love a modern sculpt of classic miniatures. Let's go to the chat and see what everybody's talking about. So Kudus Buddha says Catalyst needs to get their overseas sales sorted and shipped from China to Europe. Yeah, that's an interesting... So, I mean, that's something that everybody's probably thinking right now. Does it cost us less money to create a new hot shipping space and then just ask to have our stuff like sent in pieces and then hire a staff to assemble it and ship it from there? Because that is like a short-term, long-term solution to this kind of instability. If for 4 years you just need to get a large warehouse space, 10 to 20 staff to do like packaging assembly, and then you start ordering stuff not in complete packaging, but incomplete with like, just like, basically just not in the box. I need you to shrink wrap the plastic insert with like the miniatures in it, and then put the cards to one side and the box to one side, and I will unflat pack the boxes, put them in. Now it can say, like packaged or manufactured somewhere else, because you just need a new manufacturing stamp. People are going to try and do that, I guarantee. And then warehouse and distribute from somewhere else, because yeah, like so think about like if the idea is to push manufacturing back to the US, it's a lot cheaper to dodge by just opening a warehouse somewhere and doing like assembly and packaging in another country and then shipping it in. And now it's like, they'll have to make all kinds of rules and component checks, which you would need to like disqualify so many products for. Like, you couldn't buy anything then inside the United States that didn't have some piece of it come from China. And you would need to like figure out a way of like checking all of that. Like, how would you manufacture any kind of electronics whatsoever? There'd be something somewhere, some kind of circuit board or microchip or something like that. Magnets, you know what I mean? Like, it would be impossible to do. So I'm sure in the short term, people are thinking about that. We'll see what the actual practical application of that though is in the long term. But it's definitely a workaround for now. Mark says less ships moving is going to also delay containers. Seattle docks are already empty because so few ships moving in from Asia. Yeah, I mean, that's less work for probably union stevedore jobs too, which is going to be not great for people. Kudos asked if the rocks on Logan Grimnar count for line of sight. I do not know. And then Ivrena says, what's troubling about the Space Wolf release is the lack of Bjorn the Fell-handed. I mean, you can make Bjorn out of the Space Wolf kit, can't you? The Space Wolf Dreadnought kit. And they that's the only kit that still exists, I'm pretty sure. Because the Space Wolf Dreadnought kit, you can still buy that, can't you? You must be able to still buy the Space Wolf Dreadnought kit. I'm going to lose my mind if you can't. Space Wolf Dreadnoughts. Because they had their own special, like they got rid of the older one, but yeah, Space Wolf Venerable Dreadnought. Because the Vendread still exists too. $75 Canadian. Yeah, okay. This thing still exists. Yeah, okay. We can still buy this guy. I was like, phew, Bjorn. Where's my Bjorn? Because like there's Bjorn right there. That's Bjorn in all his splendor, being the guy who bodied Magnus. The best memories of all of Bjorn's existence are if you read the Emperor's Gift by Arndevsky Bowden, and I think it's Siege of Fenris. There's two scenes with Bjorn the Fell-handed. They're like, in my mind, like the greatest Bjorn the Fell-handed scenes maybe in 40k lore. The first one is where he just tells the Inquisition to go away. And they just listen and leave. Like, the Inquisition shows up. It's after the First Armageddon War. And the Space Wolves have like basically defeated Angron along with this one company of Grey Knights. They've like held back Angron. The world leaders have like completely overrun Ulanor, which is, if you don't know this, like Armageddon is Ulanor from the Horus Heresy, where like the Emperor basically fights for the last time and defeats like the Orc warlords and basically ends the Orcs in that timeline. Angron shows up there, and this like company of like 50 Grey Knights, of which is I think only one survivor, and then the Space Wolves fight, and then afterwards the Inquisition just declares that everybody who is part of the war needs to die, and they're just going to start the planet over again and kill everyone. And the Space Wolves were like, absolutely not! Like, these people fought with us for like 5 years, and Grimnar fights this crazy fighting retreat across the galaxy as the Inquisition and the entire Imperium chases them, and they finally end up back at Fenris. And there's this giant, like, punitive fleet led by the Inquisition that shows up, and Grimnar just teleports on their flagship during, like, a parlay and executes the Inquisitor, and the whole thing's supposed to, like, blow up, and they're just going to destroy Fenris. And then they wake up Bjorn, and Bjorn just tells everyone to shut up and go home. And they all just listen. And they're like, okay, yep. Like, the next Inquisitor down from the Lord Inquisitor's like, yeah, no, that guy knows the Emperor. That guy talked to the Emperor, and he fought with the Emperor. If he says go home, we're fine. Just go home. And he leaves. And then in Siege of Fenris, which I think is a Chris Wright book, the Thousand Sons try and take revenge on the Space Wolves for the Prospero, the cleansing at Prospero. And Magnus shows up on Fenris, and he's in his like demonic form or whatever, and they wake up Bjorn, and as like the fang's about to crack, he just like fights hand to hand against Magnus, and then just body checks him down the side of a mountain and banishes him. And it's maybe my favorite thing. So there's a little bit of Bjorn lore for you. I'm glad this miniature still exists. I hope they keep him in the range, because he's just a badass miniature. And like, the original metal miniature is one of my favorite all-time sculpts. I don't give a shit about Murderfang. That guy can fucking die in a fire. But Bjorn's a total legend. Total badass. Get rid of Murderfang. Get rid of all these other ones. Just keep this guy. I'd be fine with it. What else we got going on in the chat? The Wolves pulling the boat's goofy. Kudos Buddha says. Any chance we get Bjorn the Fell-handed in a new Dreadnought? I don't think it works. I'll be honest. I wouldn't like resculpt Bjorn in a new Dreadnought, because, man, like, if they kept him in the old style Dread, I'd be fine with it. But the fact that he's like a post-heresy casualty that's there when Russ leaves, and like he needs to be in like the modern we can't make good Dreadnoughts anymore Dreadnought. You could put him in like some kind of super contemptor, but that feels like, I don't know, that feels like the new Coke of Bjorn the Fell-handed. I don't think I'd like it. But I'd be fine with like a bigified, updated, like less static version of that Bjorn the Dreadnought. Like if it's the old variant and they do Bjorn Classic, like I'd be fine with it. Because I like the boxy dreads so much better than the Contemptor class. Like I just don't think it looks as cool. Liam Fisher says you might go over the Rubicon. I don't know how you send Bjorn over the Rubicon. Isn't he just like a spine with a head attached? How'd you even do it? Awesome Claus says it's an extremely snappable bird up there for Neil. I think you're not wrong. And then Kuzmo says you can ping the bird off with a flick. Tom says their bear heads look so tiny in the Terminator armor, but and then Kuzmo says the Terminators almost have the original profile. They do. It's in the legs and the hips. They have almost like a Rogue Trader Terminator kind of profile where everything's a bit more rounded. And it looks a lot more like there's a guy in there. You know what I mean? Like there's a guy inside of it. And like there's just this like super massive slope plating on top of it. Cause like originally Terminator armor in the descriptions in like the second edition, like Legions Imperialis and War Gear book, it was armor that was designed to like clean the insides of like starship reactors. And it got repurposed during the Horus Heresy into this like combat armor, or like the STC was for this, like you're supposed to like clean the insides of starship armor or starships with it. Like, and it got repurposed into like this, like Astartes armor later on. And it was never really designed to be like it's like they took the power loader from Aliens and like made an actual suit armor in it. And I would agree. Zug says, boy, can't wait to get the wrong game in a box I buy if they do the assembly thing. You're not probably wrong. John Pox here says, greetings from balmy Duluth, Minnesota, 42 degrees today. Oh my God, dude, it's like 80 degrees outside here in St. Catharines. I'm in shorts. We are not having any kind of like remaining weird winter happening here in April. Zug's here. Jim Crimmins is here. Saying, yeah, it is super grim in the board game industry. I would not disagree. Matt Wilson says, get an armored badger. I need to be prepared for Badgers and Burrows 2nd edition. Are you sneaking a peek behind me? Because that is something that I had to show you guys for this week. This just showed up in the mail. I got a love package from the Osprey Games boys, and it included Harefoot Jousting, which has a sneaky second game system mounted in it. Joe's pulling a fast one on you. There's 2 games in Harefoot Jousting, but only one of them is Harefoot Jousting. So if you want to get twice the game for half the money, you should probably check that out. And then the new Burrows and Badgers 2nd edition, the anthropomorphic animal game, which I'm going to probably try and get Kat to play with me because she loves all the D&D characters that are like kind of anthropomorphic animals. She has like the Frogman thing in her D&D campaign that she does at school. And I feel like Burrows and Badgers would be the right kind of game for her. And it's very like Redwall. If you ever like have like read the Redwall books, it's kind of that style of game. So you can check out those. I'm going to be reviewing them on Saturday on GMG Reviews. So you can look forward to that because they are in print books from Osprey coming out really soon. Triple G Game says, as a designer, I'm wondering if it's even worth the effort of pitching a board game company right now. That's a great question, man. I think it's, we kind of covered it in the alternate distribution stuff with tariffs in 2 weeks ago's Inside Tabletop. Like, alternate methods of distribution, like digital distribution, is probably going to be the safest thing to plan for in the short term. And yeah, miniatures agnostic is probably going to be kind of the way that we see game design happen in the indie sphere for the next little while, or like STL distribution. Yvonne says, when everyone sees Bjorn and they all wet their collective pants because they realize he's actually really, really great. He actually really is great, but I want a new updated Bjorn, and could it just be the old variant? I do think that a good Bjorn would be very cool. And Lamash just says, when I first saw Dreadnought, I could not picture in my head how those things walked until I played Dawn of War. I mean, isn't that like the best? Isn't it? If we get a new model, is he re-Bjorn? Tom says. Tom, I love you so much, but you're an idiot. that was a dad joke. You're not allowed to tell dad jokes. Dawn of War intro. That is really, I think, the best. Like, it's true. I can't think of. Isn't it here? I'm pretty sure it's here. Is it this one? Yeah. On the Dawn of War website. Maybe we can check it out. This guy right here in Ultra 8K. Oh my God. I just want to skim over to it. I don't even want to like watch the whole thing. I just want to skim over to the total content. Where is it? Is it this guy? Yeah, this was, I mean, we thought this looked so friggin' cool back in the day. Do you remember how cool everybody thought this was? But there he is. There's the Dreddy taking a big old walk. Taking a big old walk and shooting stuff. And this guy screaming. My God. I remember thinking that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my entire life. And it was just a Dreadnought being chased by a whole bunch of dudes. Oh my God, the internet connection is just freaking out right now because I'm trying to watch this while I stream, and obviously it doesn't want to do it. Yeah, what a great, fantastic. I'm just making YouTube like explode right now. What a great, fantastic portrayal of a Space Marine Dreadnought. I probably can't get any kind of trouble if there's less than 8 seconds of what I'm showing anyway. Jeannie Smith says, hey Ash, what is the best way to find out the timing of your Monday shows and schedule for your events? You post somewhere the timing? If so, where? I hate missing your content. Usually around noon to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when we do the shows, like all the shows. It's midday. So if you're around at lunch hour, because I try and do it like lunch hour for the local crowd, like the Eastern Time Zone North American crowd. And that also like conveniently is like start of day for Pacific time zones, so like 9 a.m. So weirdly, a lot of people watch this like when they're first getting to work on their phones. And then end of day for the UK, because it's roughly 5 p.m. for the UK. So people are getting off work, they're sitting on the bus, they're watching their phones too. So like that time slot, like 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when my live content usually happens. And then life happens and it gets pushed, like today got pushed to 1, but you know, that's just the way it happens. But it seems to be like the best sort of for those 3 major time zones: Pacific, Eastern, and British Standard Time. For everybody else, it's, I mean, I'm only one man. I can't do multiple time zones, but that's usually my plan for all that stuff. Ghost Mountain says, Dreadnoughts are just penguins with guns. Matt says, get Cat and Armored Mouse. Oh, she'd probably love that. I need to find out who made those. Who made those minis? I know they're a UK brand. Maybe I'll have her go through it with me and pick some out. But I'm pretty sure I can like 3D print a lot of them too. There's a lot of like anthropomorphic, like 3D printable, like Redwall style shit. Because it's a popular D&D thing, right? Is the mouse guard style. Actually, I'm pretty sure we could just look that up, can't we? Like mouse guard style miniatures. Because mouse guard was another RPG that was like super, immediately a million Etsy things came up. I will be absolutely spoiled for choice. There's like 1,000 different like things that you could Google through and check out. And yeah, look at how cool some of these are. Look at this guy, this little mouse Gandalf. And then of course there's the Reaper Mouselings, which if you don't remember, Mike from Epic Deck Studio painted up all those. Yeah, and Mouse Guard's a beautifully illustrated book. So that same kind of idea. Why is there like a Death Guard army in here with the Mouse Guard stuff? That's a weird Google return. Mice and Mystics had cool miniatures as well. Yeah, and again, in that same vein, you'll get like 1 million different like animal, little foresty creature guys. So I will definitely check that out as far as minis for Cat, because I think she would love that. Gene Dean says coolest 130 in the early 2000s. Yeah, the coolest minute 30 definitely, it set the bar for like cinematic intros too, right? Like we had a real dearth of cool cinematic intros until that came around. Ben says I meant I was a devil. Oh wait, I don't know what that means. Polychrome says Big Stepper. Gene says maybe 2007. I think the Dawn of War intro was 2003. 2004, because I remember vividly painting the Dawn of War Blood Raven army that I still have. I still have my Blood Raven army, and it's going to come out for 4th edition Throwback Thursday 40K at some point. And I painted it to that Dawn of War intro because I got sent, Relic sent us all of the working concept art for the game for us to paint the miniatures to. And then because we also had to craft we had to like kit bash basically all the buildings so that we could have the buildings on the table. We played our 40K game, and Lionel and I have played a big old 40K game, a much younger, dumber version of me. Jim says, did you discuss the Catalyst Games press release around tariffs? Our Lords of War friends discussed it today, just more grimness. Yeah, I went through it actually earlier this morning at the beginning of the video. So if you go back in the stream, Jim, you'll be able to see it there. Nick says it's 6:15 right now, 6:30 even. Ugh, time. But aren't we off right now? Yeah, 6:33 in the UK right now. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because it's 5 p.m. if I start at noon, 6 p.m. if I start at 1. But after work was the goal, right? For timing wise. What do we got? Tony Ellis says Oathsworn Miniatures. Yeah, that's right. Oathsworn's the one that they do the line that's, I think, featured in Badgers and Burrows, which is I'll have all that info, actually, I think, in the book. They do a nice shout out for all the models that they use inside there. So when I do the review, I'll be able to see those too. Matt says, I have some creator that does STLs as well. That's cool. And then Nick says, it's popular medieval manuscripts for hares to joust from the shells of snails. That's a cool visual. I love that. And then Tom says, new Grimdark Media episodes are just real life now. I should give you guys an update on Grimdark Media because I think Jay and I are going to go do The Last of Us Part 2 as like a rolling series week to week. We were planning on, because he's got some stuff keeping him from coming back in the studio for the next couple weeks. So we were planning on doing some stuff via like not Skype, but Zoom. I just dated myself. Does Skype even exist anymore? Via Zoom. And we were just going to think we're just doing Grimdark Media. It'd just be way easier. Dudes. And then Nick says, if you enjoy Mouse Guard, check out Mope. I'll have to. And then Raincoat Spare says, Reaper used to have a lot of mice. Official Badgers and Burrows minis are mostly not available right now. Oh, that's too bad. I mean, once again, I'm sure there's lots of different like variations you can find through. The Mouselings from Reaper I thought were available from Bones. Reaper Mouselings. Because they had like the tavern set. Yeah, it looks like Reaper still got them. Unless they've gone out of... I guess I'm in the UK here. Yeah, they got them all. All the Reaper Mouselings, like they're still here. And there's the 10 Mouseling Hero box, which is I think what our boy Mike was painting up, which is these guys with the Barbarian. This was the one that you literally could make a Frostgrave Warband out of. And so that's what he did, is he made his Mouseling Frostgrave Warband. He said like Knights, Barbarians. This one's great. The Bard, it was like every character is a mouse. Maybe I should just get this for Cat, because they're fantastic. I'm pretty sure they're in the Bones Black material. But there's a ton of like Mouseling stuff. Thanksgiving Mouselings. This is just ridiculous. Pioneer Mouselings. And then Lara Croft Mouseling Adventurous. That's so dumb. If I search animals on Reaper, there must be a lot of... No, those are just farm animals. Anthropomorphic? Is that just anything? Oh, sort of. Yeah, there's some stuff. There's a bunny lady. There's a hare folk. Reapercon Mouselings. Honeythorn Knight on foot, whatever the hell that is. Oh, he's a bee. There's a bee knight. That's insane. A lion man. A tiger man. I like this hare folk, though. That's a cool, like... What's her name? From Zootopia. Hops. Something Hops. Like Officer Hops. That kind of mini. Anyway, tons of options, I'm sure, for playing that game eventually. And then Darksford apparently also makes some Burrows and Badger style miniatures. That's interesting. But Oathsworn was, I think, the company that did the classic ones. And Nick says the Oathsworn stand was packed all day long. Fantastic. Polychrome28 says, have you looked at Xeogenesis? Robots always pique my interest. And then it tomorrow goes on to GameFound. Yeah, I know. They got in touch with me before Adepticon, and I like leaned back out and never heard from them again. So they were in touch with me for a while, and then I guess just like ran out of road before they were going to launch their crowdfund, and then never hit back. I hit them a couple of like pings, an email, and lost contact, went radio silent. So I mean, I can wait until it comes out. Doesn't matter to me. I got lots of robot miniatures. I can play with whatever. So we'll see what happens. And then Genian says MS Paints was good about getting me interested. Break through a wall, kick a dumpster. Fair enough. And I think Matt Solson says, I like the accessibility of STLs, but I'd still like to get Oathsworn medals because I love the old school looking style. Yeah, for sure. That's obviously the ideal, is that we do it that way. Also, and this was the last thing I wanted to note, because this was a relatively new piece of info as well. It looks like they're starting to come back with narrative shit on Warhammer Community. I made a lot of comments in the last year about how like so much of the signal on Warhammer Community is like competitive stuff, right? It's talking about like what the meta is and what the new rules are and stuff like that. But apparently they've started a series on playing Crusade, the Warhammer Community Crusade, playing Incursion. And I think that's great because we've got staff armies on display here, beautifully photographed, obviously. And it's crazy to me this is a 1,000-point army. Like, this would have been like a full tournament army in a previous edition. This is what, 20 Wraith Guard, two Wraith Lords, some Fire Dragons, an Autarch, and 10 Swooping Hawks, and this is 995 points. What is going on with, like, why isn't this enough of a game? This is enough miniatures for a game. This should be a whole ass game. Same with this like Tyranid army, which looks small to me, but is beautifully painted. And it's what is it? 990 points. It's plenty of miniatures. There's 10 Termagants, 10 Hormagants, some Von Ryan's Leapers, some of the Spraygaunts, Prime. It looks like the starter set plus a few additional things, which I think is a great way to show off this kind of game. But I loved seeing this. I loved seeing the the new miniature, like new style miniatures. This one too, it looks like is a starter set army. Two Terminator squads, some Stern Guard, because that was on the starter set as well. And this is the previous starter set. Although there's some newer things in there, like those Ophidian destroyers. Looks like some warriors. 2 of the Deathmark Stalkers. It's so many miniatures for 980 points. That is so many models. Doesn't that look like a huge army to you? Like, or maybe it's just to me, like 20 years ago, like I feel like this would have been an entire tournament army. Why can't this just be a tournament army again? Why can't we just play 1,000-point games? I feel like it would solve so many problems if we just played 1,000-point games. This Custodes army has like almost 20 miniatures in it, which is bananas. But I was really happy to see them playing Crusade and playing Incursion. That was a really good indicator of them trying to make an effort to make less of the signal about just like tournament style games. And they're updating this, I think, every week. They do like a new game and stuff like that. I thought that was kind of cool to see finally. Yeah. And like, it's funny because when I reviewed those 2 battle forces for the Death Guard and the World Eaters, they're both almost 1,000 points. The Death Guard one, if you add the Comp Patrol, which by the way, that battle force is 290 Canadian. A Comp Patrol is $200. That's insane to me. That is such an insane price point for like not even a whole game, like for like barely 500 points of an army. But yeah, that Death Guard army is 1,500 points if you put the 2 boxes together. That's a huge, like that's a whole collection, but it's $500 for not even a whole game size, which is crazy to me. Canadian, $500. I would love to see more of that kind of content. I just think it's healthier for their business, if I'm being honest. It's a thing that like is sustainable and people can actually engage with versus, and it's like more real. You know what I mean? Like you get to see people's not perfect paint jobs, you know what I mean? Or like wacky kind of out there paint jobs. A lot of it being based on like starter sets and stuff like that too, I think makes it feel more real. Like you're just cracking open starters and adding a few new models. I like that. I was really encouraged to see that stuff. Liam Fish says, almost like GW wants you to buy more minis. I know, but at like the cost of their own experience. Like I do feel like, and we did an episode of this of like, why is Kill Team doing so well? It feels like it's pushing people. Like you have to have more minis, yes, but there's like there's a logical failure point for that, right? Where like you just can't push the game size any higher, and it's on too high a shelf. And that's why people were engaging with like lower model count, lower stakes things. And why AOS even gained traction, right? Because it was less dollars because there was the AOS discount of we don't make these models expensive because we want you to try it. Plus the model counts for the armies tended to be lower. I think any like that Eldar army is what, like 22 models? 22 models for 1,000 points. That doesn't feel like... That feels like way too many models for 1,000 points. It feels like twice as many models as you used to get in a 1,000-point army. It's crazy. Whereas you could just, and here's the theory behind that. You could make me buy more models for the same army, or you could make me so excited about your game I buy multiple smaller armies. You make, like, everyone's disposable budget is their disposable budget. And the threat to making you have to like keep buying stuff to participate at all is that I leave the ecosystem. What you really want is you want a sweet spot where your consumer's happy with what they're spending the same amount of money they were always going to spend on, and not feeling their arms being twisted into spending more money to continue to participate. It's a difference between like a sort of like an entry level thing and a sustainable thing, right? Entry level is usually going to be the thing that you lose money on, but gets someone into the ecosystem. you want a sustainable price for all your products, but you also want a sustainable engagement level so people don't mind spending that price. You can't increase the individual unit price on your army and increase the game size at the same time and not have people like fall through the cracks, which is eventually, I think, what's already happening. Tom Cruz says, I almost have as many models in my 300-point Infinity Army as in that Elder Army. Yes, but your 300-point Infinity Army probably costs you like $150, which is significantly different. And then Malev says, especially when like 5 years ago, the Common Patrol Star Collectings were $95 US. Yeah, they were $110 Canadian or $120 Canadian, which is way less. Raincoat Spare says, zero interest in competitive Warhammer. If GW makes a 40k rule set as easy to get into Spearhead, I might play again. Until then, I just play my own rules with my 40k minis or play older editions. I'll be honest, like what was really shocking was the game sizes for older editions of 40k when we went back and did those playthroughs, right? Like 1,000-point 40k army of second edition miniatures was like 15 models. Like I had like a Rhino, I had a couple tactical squads of like 5 guys, a couple characters, and it was like a whole 1,500-point army. It was maybe 20 models, like less models than Elder Army for sure. And even that Tyranid army was what, like that Tyranid army didn't have. I feel like it didn't have that many miniatures in it, but it must have. Yeah, it had 40 miniatures probably. What, there was like 2 units of 10, Gaunts, like 20, the Reapers and Spray Bugs, another to 30, 35, 36, 37 miniatures. It's like almost twice as many miniatures as that Elder Army, which makes sense. Like it's a huge army. And then the Necron Army too. What surprised me was that there was almost as many actually there's more Space Marines than Eldar. That's wild. Because there's 10 Terminators, 10 Sternguard, 5 Vanguard, and then 2 characters and a character and a tank. Yeah, there's 22 models in that army too. That's insane. There's 27 models in that army. That's insane. That's a wild proposition that there's more models in the Space Marine army. And it's all Terminators. Oh man, what a bananas thing 40k has become, and yet still people are like jumping all over it. Matt says, how does Trader Toll coming along? Did Jay get 5 to 6 guards? We haven't. I'm going to do this solo play, I think, to launch Trader's Toll because it's so many like dudes to paint. I'm probably going to do Hametsu alongside of it because it's less minis to play at the beginning. But both of them I have the terrain already done for, so I think they're high on the list right now. And then we've also got more full spectrum dominance that Bob and I are doing, and Bob and Rob, the Bobs and Robs that are doing with me as well. And then Bob's got some Spearhead he's bringing in. He's going to bring in the what's it called, the Ossiarch Bone Reapers Spearhead, which I'm pretty excited about. And I have the minis to paint up the new Ogre Spearhead right away. I might. Yeah, I need more time. I need more life. I need more life to paint all these things. But I will get. I'm gonna get on top of Hametsu and Trader's Toll in particular because I can record them all the time. Just like with doing the terrain for Hero Quest. But you guys get new Hero Quest this week as well, which I'll be excited about. Tay says Rob got me into Bushido, the prick. Bushido's a good game, man. Come play Bushido with me, Chase. I've got all the Bushidos already. And then Genie says even 500 points of OPR armies feel pretty full. I mean, and OPR is like pick your game size. X Troopers 59 says Eternal battle report, please. I can do that right now. I have enough minis to do Eternal. I've got so many robot minis. I can just play that today. Same with Arsenal. I want to do an Arsenal game at some point too. Because I have all the robot minis to do so. Okay. I have about 10 minutes left in this show, so let's talk about what's coming up. Speaking of playing some games coming into the future. So we've got, like I said, we've got the reviews for these 2 books behind me right now, which I'll show you guys again if you guys didn't see them, which is Burros and Badgers and Harefoot Jousting. And then I have my like solo recording I'm going to do this week. I'd really like to get Hametsu on the table, but we're definitely doing whatchamacallit, doing I lost it. Warhammer Quest this week. Probably just me solo doing Warhammer Quest. And then on top of that, trying to get Hametsu and Trader's Toll like ready to be on the table for some solo games. There was something else. There was some other solo campaign I wanted to play through right now. I don't remember what it was. We reviewed so many solo and co-op games recently that I'm stuck on which ones I already had minis for. There's another one I already had minis for. Anyway, those are on my and 1490 Doom. Because I just started painting my 1490 Doom stuff. Got it all put together. And that's another one that I'm going to play. Because I can do that as soon as somebody wants to come in. Because I have all the terrain and stuff ready to go. Yeah, I just need to get the models on the table. Again, this all comes down to painting time for me. I need to get a mobile painting kit together so that my painting can be done on the road as well, because I've been traveling a whole bunch in the last little while. And that means I can just sit and paint. Because one thing I've been really bad at this year, I'll be honest, is painting as a habit. I used to be so good at sitting down and just picking away 2 or 3 colors on something, and then walking away and coming back and walking away and coming back. And I need to get more on top of that because I feel like I'll get more projects done that way. And it would also encourage me to do, because this shot you're seeing right now of the books is how I plan on doing on the paint table in the future with you guys. Doing it as a live show every week with everybody on YouTube, where I just talk about what I painted this week and what I'm working on. And you guys can see it as a habit, because I was trying to figure out how am I going to do it on the paint table. And this just felt like the right way to do it, where I can actually just set things up on a spinner and you guys can see them spin around. I can talk about how I painted them and what I did, and doing it as a live thing. Ashgrant says, don't paint and drive. I'm going to try not to. And then Tasker says, Ben says, I have Hametsu Heroes if you need a player. I would love that, man. I'd love to get some of that stuff done. It'll be cracking on and getting all the baddies painted first, right? Getting all the Oni painted. And then the heroes, the easy part. So coming and doing heroes will be quick after all that stuff gets done. Nick Butler says, it's when I realized I was picking up minis in the 25 pence in a box of loose minis in a friendly local game store back in the 80s. That's a different time. And then Jim Kerman says, is the Boarding Actions book worth it? I would say maybe, because again, we're late edition right now. So considering that we're basically a year out from 11th edition, if the cycle repeats, which is funny because the topic of this week's Inside Tabletop for you guys for Sunday with me and Chris is Workshop's 3-year cycle working? Is it working? Because one of my theories is the 3-year product cycle is a reason that they never have to balance their games, which is not wrong. If you just completely restart your game over again every 3 years, you can drive it into a wall as many times as you want, and it just starts over again. And the real pressure point becomes how many times can you get people to buy codexes? Because you need to at least have some stuff roll over into the next edition. But if you just upset the apple cart and throw stuff out completely, then you can kind of just get away with not having to do a lot of game balancing or even testing. Matt says, less lumber, more life. I know we need to have less chores for me to do, but there's always going to be more chores. And then Next Trooper says, excited for 1490 Doom. Hopefully the game found starts soon. Yeah, I'm really excited for it too. I'm excited to see the physical manifestation of the book, but it's such a cool concept. I love survival horror shit, and doing survival horror medievally, I think is going to be so much fun. And then Slacker Rage says, Slacker at Large says, love my Boarding Actions book. It's an amazing game mode. It really is. And it's a lot like the Spearhead book in that it's a complete game in a book, right? Because the core rules for 40K are free. And then all you need is that book, and you've got all your boarding patrols and everything just to ready, set, play. But you need the terrain. And that is really the sticking point, I think, with Boarding Actions is it's so tied to that Galadark terrain set that it's kind of saying hey, here's this game you could play with G.I. Joes, but you have to play it on the USS Flag aircraft carrier. You know what I mean? The only way to play it is on the giant 7-foot long aircraft carrier that we used to sell. And it's oh, that's kind of a barrier to me playing more of these things. This feels like it's in the way of me enjoying this. Cal Rovgag says, gonna check out Badgers and Burrows 2nd edition. It's literally behind me right now, dude. It's right here. It's chilling on the thing. It just showed up in the mail. So you'll see that on Saturday. And then Brian says the 1490 Doom crowdfund is going to be pretty popular. I mean, they got Napoleon Dynamite playing it. So how could it not be, right? Napoleon Dynamite gave it its stamp of approval. And it's the first game he ever played, which I think is going to be pretty cool. Jim German says, yeah, I could disregard updates in my 40K with the book. I bought the Galadark for the sci-fi games anyway because I'm crazy. And then Ivana says, yeah, but the USS Frag was hella worth it. So the USS Flag, if you guys don't remember, maybe I can show you guys a picture of it. The USS Flag aircraft carrier, just with a kid for scale. Everybody knew one kid that owned this thing. And that kid was both loved and hated by his friends because, oh my God, this thing. Oh my God, this thing. Let's see if I can see it. Here we go. Yeah, you guys can see the SS Flying Aircraft Carrier. It was the coolest thing ever if you owned a whole bunch of GI Joes, but it was 7 feet long. So those are small children. Imagine having a toy this big in your house and having your parents buy it for you. I did have a friend, I'm pretty sure, that owned one. He went on to become a Canadian Forces or Canadian Air Force pilot and actually teach at the Top Gun Academy. So the fact that he owned those GI Joe F-14 Tomcats was a legit reason for him, I think, becoming a pilot. No, they weren't rich. They weren't rich. They were just completely GI Joe crazy. That kid, I think, bothered him. I think that kid bothered him. He bothered him so much that they ended up getting it. But it's funny because that kid right there is like, that's my version of the Galadark, right? Where it's like, you can play this game with your GI Joes, but you need to have this 7 foot long aircraft carrier. The box it came in looked like a coffin. It looked like they were shipping a human body. The box was so big. It was incredible. And Astrox says, oh shit, that makes Fortress Maximus look like Bumblebee. Now, who remembers Fortress Maximus? Because they scaled Fortress Maximus down, which is a whole other thing. Gene says, no one in my hometown in 29 Palms had that. And then Tom says, I had the General. That was as big as I ever got. And then Renko says, I would love to see Paint Table return. Yeah, me too, man. I'll be honest, the biggest thing that's holding me back right now from painting is my eyesight's going. Like my eyesight for up close. I'm in that age now where the last time I went to the optometrist to get new glasses, they were like, hey, you're probably going to have to start getting reading glasses. And I was like, absolutely not. Fuck you. There's no way. I'm not that old. I can see up close just fine. And then as soon as it gets dark outside and I go to paint, I cannot focus on anything within like 8 inches of my face or like 12 inches of my face. And it's a problem. So yeah, I need to get new. I just have not had time to go back to the optometrist and get reading glasses. And that has minimized my painting quite a bit. So yeah. Jeannie said, remember that toy being $100 and flinching? There's no way. It was like, dude, do you know how much video games were? Okay, hang on. I have to actually answer this right now because price. Oh, was it Consumers Catalog? Consumers Catalog Nintendo 1980s. The prices of Nintendo shit back in like the 1980s blew my mind. Here we go. Yeah. It was expensive. Like it was crazy expensive for what like you were actually getting. And the games were super expensive too. Here, I'll show you guys. This recently blew my actual mind. Cause I was thinking about inflation. And I was like, man, shit's expensive these days, video game wise. This was like as expensive. Here, watch this. And these are games in the 80s. This completely melted my brain. So there's your like controllers and stuff like that, right? Look at the prices of those games. ESPN Baseball for the Sega Genesis was $87.98. Mortal Kombat was $82.98. The prices of games has always been insane. Mortal Kombat 2, they're all $90. Mystic Quest was $30. It was cheap, but that was like the only one. The Jurassic Park game was $80. $80. This is in 1994, and those were $80. What an insane price tag. Yeah, and the Game Gear, the case for your Nintendo, for your Game Boy, your not even color Game Boy was $10. My God, what an age to be alive. It blew my mind that the prices of video games were that expensive. I think it's completely mad. And I'm very, very very excited to see like a comparative price from back then, because it makes me feel less bad about buying my kids shit. Matt Olson says, thank you for the tip, man. I just found out there's adders with hats, like serious. And then Jeannie says, I love KB Toys. I swear it was $100, but Nintendo was $50. Final Fantasy 3 was $60 or $80. Yeah, the consoles back then were like loss leaders. They were like $100 ish, and then $80-$90 for games. Totally insane. And then Mark Langille says, we got a Sears credit card to buy a Sega Genesis in university. that's such a dodge. Tony Hilton says, shift to paint in 6mm, no detail, no eye strain. I love painting small scale. I'm doing 10mm stuff right now with Bob to do the I've lost the name, the full spectrum dominance, which I'm really excited about. So yeah, man, I think we are done. Rob Jameson says, any new Gamma Wolves news? Not at the moment. I've got some stuff in the fire right now for when I restructure the GMG Patreon coming up soon. But nothing on Gamma Wolves at the moment. It's still sitting with Osprey. It's their game until it's not their game for 5 years, right? And then we'll see what happens with it. So it came out during COVID. It's such a weird time to have launched the game in the fall of 2020. It was not great. But some stuff I'm planning on maybe re-releasing from the Blaster era for Last Days, and then some new stuff I'm cooking up too. So we'll see what happens. And that's it. We're done. It's 2:00. Well, I hope everybody has a great week. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I'm just reading one more thing. Badgers and Bros also gives me Spellslinger vibes. So I hope everybody has a great week. I am throwing down, a poll for the patrons to pick our next Indie Hour. If you're not watching the Indie Hour live on the GMG Patreon, you will see the recap for this week on Wednesday. It'll go up around the same time as we're filming the new one. So whatever the new one's going to be, we're recording it at the same time as you guys on YouTube are actually seeing the new one go out. So the new one that goes out will be actually Hametsu, which you guys didn't know, and that's probably why I'm talking about Hametsu, which is a solo and co-op survival horror game set in a post-apocalyptic 16th century Japan. So if you guys like Ghost of Tsushima, think of it as like Ghost of Tsushima Legends mode, the miniature game. And you play as one of 4 different like classes of heroes. Sorry, 3 different schools of heroes. There's 5 technically with the expansion and stuff like that. And it's a little bit like a Witcher kind of a scenario where you're fighting through these little warbands of Oni until you find the creature that you're hunting, and then you face the boss at the end. And it's all either one to 4 players, either a single player controlling 4 heroes or 1 player controlling every hero. And you can divide them up if you want to do more players. And we do a full recap from Blackside Studios, like sort of offering for that game on Wednesday. So it's already recorded. If you're a patron, you can just go check it out already. It's on the Patreon. And if you're just waiting to see it on YouTube, be live Wednesday along with whatever we pick for this week. So yeah, hope everybody is having a great week, and I will catch you patrons on Wednesday for more of this. And the rest of you maybe on Saturday for whatchamacallit, for On the Paint Table, which I'd love to get back to doing. Until then, bye everybody.